All right, guys. So, welcome back. Welcome. This is going to be another attempt in this sort of stream here. Uh, we're going to do a couple of things, and our goal is to sort of discuss the market today. I'm going to actually get a different share link here because I'm going to rip it to as many places as we possibly can here. So let me quickly do this here. Let me kind of X this out. Okay, let me just from our Discord, I'm just going to delete kind of the message. The reason for that is because I want to give the right links everywhere. I do that, and yeah, let's see how that's gonna go. Don't have, well, I wanted to get other places where I can put this. Yeah, this is pretty interesting stuff. So yeah, we can get started here on the live here today. So main issue right now is that when we are on this kind of platform, well, there are a couple of issues really, right? One is that on YouTube Studio you don't have a lot of options to work with, but I'm going to try to do my best here. um a lot of it has to do with YouTube, and I guess like the render quality of these charts, right? I'm gonna do my best here, right, to show you guys what is this platform about. But yeah, this is a long process, right? This is a long process, and it's going to take some time. So let's how we can get this thing going. Um, I guess I should have done in a short format. Right. We're kind of sitting ducks here, but it's okay. We're going to think what we're going to do is this, right? We're going to keep this stream open. And in the meanwhile, what we're going to do is we're going to have another stream, and we're going to go on TikTok. I think this is the only way to sort of legitimately kind of display what we're talking about, and it's 2:58 a.m. So this is not good that there's not even a single user here. So it is what it is. I can't really do much here, so I just have to kind of take the L for today's live session. Uh-huh. And so let's see if we could get some users, but there's like nobody here. So this is where, you kind of have this thing. So that's fine. What I'm gonna do here is I'm going to actually take off my cam here. So that way, what I can start doing is I can start using this and start live streaming on TikTok. So I can do full live streaming, and who knows what hits, but we'll try our best to sort of do both, get best of both worlds here. And I don't know if this is going to work, but we're going to try to make it work here. So let's close that up. All right. Yeah, so hopefully we can get our live going today. I wonder how this looks actually. If I start doing a live with the camera on, and I have this kind of setup here. Let's see. Okay, this is not so bad actually. Does works in both ways. So yeah, so we have basically camera for our TikTok here. So anybody that's wondering what the hell is going on, why do I have a phone? And I'm also like doing a lot of this. But yeah, this is all part of that. And yeah, we're gonna kind of start going on this live here on Here you we are currently. All right, guys, sorry about that. I'm just kind of getting the live ready, and so we can start getting it. And the goal here is to actually go on live 2 times, right? So we're gonna go, and we are getting so fucking screwed here with my phone, but it's okay. So I'm gonna show you guys, how I do things here, pretty much more or less. And yeah, if you guys need it, we're right here. So, all right, we can get started. I'm doing streaming in pretty much 2 places right now, but we're gonna see how that's gonna go. So, so yeah, it's gonna be a lot, right? And by the way, I'm just using my phone. I don't have any fancy gear, so it's very hard to like stream in both places. And I think like we just started both streams. We'll see how YouTube does relatively to our um, you know, TikTok live, and let's see how it goes, right? But yeah, I mean, as you guys already know, the market had dumped like we called it from here. And SPY dumping, a lot of people might say, well, this is a very easy trade, and it was actually, right? But again, it's about the timing. We predicted at what point the market was going to dump. However, on the contrary, we have Palantir, right? And Palantir kind of dumped, but it just didn't, make that move that we intended it to do. And that's expected because in a way, right? I've already talked about this in my other, like the market doesn't tank like this. This is not a reality for the market, right? And what is a reality for the market, right? This is a good, like we have to ask ourselves, well, what is a reality for the market? Well, a reality for the market is actually this. Let's see guys what that would look like, which is basically a structure. Like you can see this M pattern here. Most likely the market will go up, then down like that, right? Especially as September is approaching, and for everybody that wants to sort of understand like a deeper level, definitely follow the people, right, that are at the top, and we're going to be able to sort of figure this out, right? And what is this thing? This thing is very simple, right? You're going to be able to figure out that pretty much, there's a lot of positions open right now, and not just by retail traders, right? Like if it was just short positions by retail, like that would have been, that would make sense, right? It's not the case. These are actual positions by, big institutions. So this kind of tells you something about the market. And, from our standpoint, right, all we have to do is kind of really figure it out, like connect the dots here, right? They're not looking for a short-term drop. They're looking something more long-term, maybe end of September, right? Maybe even October, right? So they're positioned in a way, right, that they know the market's going to dump, and but before the dump, they're just not going to let it dump when everybody has puts open. Currently, that's exactly the case. So a lot of retail traders have their puts open. So this is the structure you kind of need before you dump. A lot of people will say, well, no, the market is just going to dump straight up. And a lot of people actually have puts open right now. This is the incorrect move, right? And like I said, right, you have to play the wave of the market. We all have it in our channel here, right? And yeah, and what is the wave of the market really, right? It's that, the market will dump for a few days, but before a major speed structure, some sort of structure here, and then it finally dumps, right? This is something that we're looking for, right? So we're at this kind of critical point here, right? That I'm pretty certain at this point you're going to see a retest to these highs, if not a retest, maybe even like a sort of a little bit of a exaggeration towards the upside, right? Creating some sort of head even more, right? So yeah, like a head and shoulder structure is more interesting than just an M structure, but they follow the same idea. What is the same idea, right? The same idea is that a lower low, right? Sorry, a lower high. And let me show you guys what I mean, right? Like whether it's we'll just draw it here, right, really quickly. Whether it's a head and shoulder, right? So if you have a head and shoulder, it's pretty much like this. You still have basically what determines a position that the market's going to continue tanking lower, right? And these are the only patterns that really matter, right? I don't really look at other patterns, and this is for many reasons, right? When you look at other patterns, what ends up happening is, all of the patterns really, like whether it's like a megaphone, microphone, whatever, whatever pattern that's out there, really, right? Everything has this sort of concept behind it, right? A lower high, and that's what basically triggers a drop in the market or a higher high, like the like at a inverse head and shoulder, right? It'll create like a higher high, and then that basically triggers a bullish momentum, right, in the market. So, just FYI, right? Like this is basically what we're looking at now. This is a very simple analysis. I'm here to tell you guys is more deeper than just a simple overview, right? But I wanted to get you guys started with the simple stuff so you guys can understand the full picture, and then we can delve deeper into the more complex topics, right? So for anybody that already knows the predictions that we put out on our channel, right? We already made the call out today that we're going to be going long here, right? And so we are pretty much actively long on the market. One second, I see somebody said something. U10. I don't know what you mean by that, brother. U10. Or I think you're talking about US10. Um, but yeah, no, I'm not really going to look at because I'm more focused on the SPY topic, right? So I'm gonna just cover this topic. We'll have some questions a little bit later on, right? But pretty much, right? SPY in general, we're going to see um that recovery here, like maybe to the equal highs, and you're going to see tomorrow is going to be a very interesting time. This is going to play out, right? And when the market recovers here, right, which is going to be most likely tomorrow and maybe like Friday. I don't necessarily know like how long this recovery is going to be there for, but once this recovery is done, then you're going to have a major dump around September, and and it's called a short. Is it called a short squeeze? Yes, in a way, it could be a short squeeze, but you have to understand the context behind a short squeeze, right? So a short squeeze typically will happen when there's a low float and it's really being squeezed. There's a lot more, there's a lot of short positions, and essentially now they're just forced to buy back in a very aggressive manner. And this is something that you can only trigger when there is a very explosive move, or you have a low float, and then you also have a ramping up move, right? So what I mean by that, low float like AMC, GameStop, like these low floats, when they short squeezed, as you saw, that caused a tremendous amount of movement to the upside. Or another alternative scenario like Myrna, right? Or Moderna, right? mRNA, right? So today, what we saw on that was completely ridiculous. This thing moved up so aggressively, and I kid you not, this was 110,000%. Some of them were up about like I don't know, 800,000% on options. Meaning, if you had $1,000 in one of these plays, it would be 1.8 million. Actually, no, I think I got the math wrong there. Yeah, it's just so ridiculous, right? That it's just so ridiculous, right? It's like, you could flip literally $900 into like 1.8 mil today. So this is what this move pretty much was. Now, this is something you can't really predict, right? Even I didn't predict it. Although I was right about the sector, we talked about it in our gyro rotation. So what is this, right? This is our sector rotational graph. The craziest part, guys, the craziest part, I literally called at least the sector, right? I didn't call the stock. The funny thing is, let me show you guys something, right? I'm gonna move it here today, right? So you guys can kind of see it. The watch list. I had mRNA right here because I was watching this, but I didn't get calls. I was focused Palantir, AMD, and SPY. This was my main target. But I knew mRNA was a play to some degree, right? But I just couldn't put my hand on it, right? Because I don't know, like I really there is no signal for me. Like I would look into it right now. In terms of it being a health sector, I kind of talked about this to a lot of my friends today on our Discord, right? Um, we were pretty much, well, I would say more so, we called out this long on healthcare. And there's a lot of reason behind it, but this is basically uh, just the current sector rotation, right? In the September, October sort of area, you have uh, you have a rotation towards healthcare and the defensive sector. This is typically what happens, right? As the tech sectors tends to start crashing. And you can see like the tech sector kind of went all the way. This is okay, this is the tech sector. And most likely the tech sector is going to take a much more major dump. So it's even though it's coming into this lagging area, it's most likely going to come back to the weakening area, right? It's going to rotate, words here. And this is most likely something that you'd see not at the moment, but definitely something to be watching for in maybe September, right? Because as the market is crashing, especially tech sector, this is a big hit. So yeah, like this is something to really, think about, and that being said, right now you can see from today, this is only moving today, right? We went XLV is the healthcare sector, by the way. It went from one standard deviation, and I say this all the time, guys. This is how I knew the health sector was going to be making that move, right? Because we called this out on literally one of the lives before, because I talk about this standard deviation stuff, right? Because when we trade, we like to trade these exaggerations, or when something is too low, right? And that has a higher opportunity, right? Things you want to trade, right? When it's at lower standard deviation, that's you want to buy those. When it goes exaggerated, higher standard deviation, we want to sell those. It's kind of how we trade. So that being said, you can see XLV was in this one standard deviation box. And like to just show you guys what I mean, right? You see this first layer, this is the first standard deviation, even though the one is kind of outside of it, but this is technically the one standard deviation. Anything that's inside of here is really, really like underpriced, let's say, right? Like it hasn't moved. So you want to see something in the first standard deviation, like right here, and then you're going to have some sort of movement away from it. That's typically the play, right? And another play is when something goes to the third standard deviation, into third bracket. The further it gets into this bracket, the better the chances we have of like a mean reversion, right? So, for example, if this was weakening, and then we would go long in the market, right? Because it weakened too much. And same thing, leading wise, right? If something goes to the third deviation on leading, well, I would assume that it exaggerated too fast. And so it would be coming down. And a good example would be with XLE. So if you think about it, right, based off of what we just talked about, that kind of implies that XLE is going to be dumping. And XLE has a lot of, energy sector. It's basically the energy sector has a lot of energy related stocks, oil, and solar, so many things in here, right? So in terms of this energy in general, right? And we could kind of see those tickers, and you could build like sort of case for this, right? And then now you could start shorting a lot of these stocks because you most likely they're over exaggerated. And what do I like to short? Well, I like to short everything here, all of these tickers. Because the reason for me shorting this is because they're already out of the leading phase. They're no longer leading. The thing about leading, the leading sector is that when something is leading, it's very hard to find it. All right. So if for example, like Peter or XOM, these are leading right now. They have a lot more room and they can exaggerate further up. So, as a trader, I'm not looking to short this. All right. So pretty much the goal would be, this basket right here. And let me get the magnify glass here so you guys can see it. So MPC, Hello, PSX, right? These are things that I want to look at. And by the way, this is our platform, right? The Obelion Terminal. You could access our platform for completely free at obelion.net for anybody that doesn't know. And I see a lot of people that follow us are usually like Richie. Welcome back, Richie. I can see other people as well. Hope you guys are having a wonderful day or wonderful night wherever you are. But yeah, this platform, the Obelion Terminal, you can access our platform at obelion.net. It's completely free. And, we have all the research tools that you need. And pretty much, we are a platform for traders made by traders. And just a quick, for anybody that doesn't know, we built this platform for over a year now with the sole goal in mind that we get everything in one place that a trader needs without the noise, right? What do I mean by noise, right? Like when you look at charts, for example, any other platform, if you go into, for example, the indicators, you'll get thousands of indicators here. Even though you see a lot of indicators on my screen, don't get over, like trading requires you to look at a lot more data than this, right? But let's just say, all this is in here, but in reality, in trading view though, all the options you have, it's like you have 100,000 range of indicators, right? Tons of indicators made by students, indicators. Sorry, brother, I think I accidentally sent an invite. So indicators made by students, indicators made by random people, indicators that are not working, indicators that are lagging, and so on, so forth. So when indicators are lagging, repainting, you don't want to use those things. They're too delayed, right? And that's basically the main issue. So we basically, have indicators that we have tested that we believe have edge. And so those are the indicators you're going to see. And we're going to add more indicators, right, that we believe there is an edge. So our library is definitely going to grow further up. And not only that, but we have our own, like if you guys are worried about indicators, then what you guys can code your own indicators. We have something called the Omega script. You can come here and you could, basically write your own scripts, right? You can just hit plus new script and you could essentially either A, write your own code, or you could import it from either TradingView, which is Pine script, or Think script, which is Think or Script. We're gonna get a Ninja Trading port as well soon, right? But that's besides the point, right? The point here is very simple. So now we could take a look at those tickers, right? What are those tickers that we were looking at? Well, sorry, this is the X data. We're gonna come back here. So we were looking at the energy sector. Maybe we could take it towards here. But actually, I would argue our main play right now is not really um, this energy sector. Rather, it's actually going to be the healthcare sector. But we're just gonna take this just as an example, right? If that makes any sense. So one second, I think, you know, I just realized my big mistake. I didn't even have my headphones. So maybe that's what you guys could hear. Can you guys hear me now? Hopefully you guys can hear me. I just completely forgot. I have my other headphones on, right? And I completely forgot that, you know, I was actually live streaming. Matter of fact, I'm actually live streaming in two places. I have the camera open here, but let me close that camera. Wait, so I'm actually live streaming here as well as on our, basically on my OBS studio, right? And so yeah, we're live at two places, and so I completely lost track. But however, the other YouTube live thing is more of a test for me. But anyway, we're just here to talk about the market here tonight and basically go over. whatever we have in Obelion terminal, right? So yeah, um, let's get right into it, right? So let's look at this like MPC for example, right? MPC, VLO, and PSX. These are very interesting stuff, and so let's take a quick into it, and let's see, are they really exaggerated, right? And you can see, yes, the market has like essentially prices rallied in a very vertical way, right? It's reaching some sort of top here for sure, right? These are very telltale signs that there's going to be some sort of like drop or retracement, right? And obviously it's not going to be a big crash, but looks like it's some sort of you know weakening position, right? It's no longer able to keep going higher. So I would definitely look short this. Is this trading view? The only way, no. The only way, this is our platform, Billion Terminal. You can access our platform at Billion.net for completely free. And by the way, for anybody that joins right now, you guys are going to get the Origin tier for completely free, which is our pro plan. It's 2 months. So definitely sign up. It's free, and you get 2 months for free. There is a code you're using. You have to type in Origin 2M, and you can get the pro tier. If you need more information, I'll let you guys know the promo code. But anyway, that's besides the point, right? The point here is very simple. Uh, we are looking at pretty much the market overall. You can see that, well, yes, this sector has been exactly something to look at, right? Something to now, we come back to the gyro again. Let's see what else can we find. So this is again, and I recommend you guys kind of look over this yourselves, figure out which one is probably weakening, right, and make your own decisions, right? But we also allow you to sort of see this in sort of large caps, and you don't see the mid caps, right? So you can see the mid caps. And we're also going to introduce the small cap here, but we're kind of working on that feature right now. This is also the mid cap. So this is interesting, right? So let's do some market research, right? Let's go back to the gyre. And what I want to do here is I actually want to look at the healthcare sector because what I'm interested in when something like Moderna, right, it explodes, what happens? I think what's going to happen is most likely other low float stocks are going to explode as well. So, we're most likely we want to look at something like healthcare, right? And we want to see, well, does it explode there, right? And we'll say, guys, let me just quickly do something here. I have some developers. So, by the way, we work with many developers um, offshore. And pretty much, our goal had always been to sort of bring this platform to life. Like this has been a long time goal for me. It's a platform for traders made by traders like ourselves. And the main goal, like I keep explaining, but I just really need to go here, is to bring all of the trading, you know, information and tools in one place. So oftentimes, and it's a quick example. Like this is a great example, right? The gyro map for your second location. It's free. Yeah, Pirate Angel. It's completely free. You join in for free, and you're going to get a pro plan, which costs $3 per month. For you can get it for 2 months for completely free as well. So you're getting a deal on top of that. Right? So yeah, this is a perfect time to join. This is going to be for the next users. Next is going to be the Origin plan. So you're here. You're going to get automatically upgraded to this Origin for completely free. So definitely sign up. Um, and let's quickly look at the terminal here, right? So what do I mean by like getting all the information all in one place? This is what I mean, right? Essentially, well, firstly, like, this is very important. Like understanding what phase the market you're in. Right now, you're in the green chains, and mind you, we called for the market to rally up from the bottom, right? When SPY was, let's just quickly go back to SPY here. So when SPY was down here, we called this rally higher. This was when there was a lot of fear in the market. Right? There was a lot of fear in the market, and now the market is becoming more green. Of course, it's not maximizing greediness. So most likely there might be some movement towards the upside, but before the real short, we have to completely realize this green level. All right. So what I mean by that, I mean that most likely this market is going to continue really higher. And as some guy said earlier, it could be a short squeeze. And again, you don't know. All we know is the direction of the ball. We're just, travelers, right? We're just travelers. And the goal here is just to follow the wave, right? Whatever the wave tells us. So anyway, that's besides the point. What I was talking about earlier was that we have this sort of economic calendar here. And here are the things we introduce, earnings calendar, economic calendar, your watch list. Watch list has the sector associated with it. No other platform does this, by the way. So, for example, like at a first glance, I know immediately AMD is XLK. XLK is a tech sector, right? Typically, when you think about a stock, one second, guys, my camera got messed up a little bit. Let me just zoom back in here. Okay, we're good to go now. So when you look at a regular, you know, ticker in any other platform, what are you going to do? You're not going to, you're just going to know that ticker, right? You're not going to know where that ticker's part of. You know, you might not even understand if it's healthcare or not, especially when there's thousands of tickers out there. So this is a good way to understand, what tickers belong to where. I mean, especially if it's like a large cap stock or mega caps, middle, no, uh, mid cap stock. So it's good to know this information, right? And not only that, you see this economic calendar here, super powerful. Like I'm telling you guys, this is probably one of the most amazing tools you can have, right? Let me just pause this here real quick, right? Let's show you that. You could see it in a graph view, right? And I talk about this every single time for anybody that's new here. So because I want to demo you guys, kind of walk you through the platform. You can see the news here. So for a fact, there was no news all the way until uh, August 25, right? And only in that week, like the 27th and 28th, there's going to be major news near the end of the month, right? And I'm able to kind of quickly glance here and understand, well, there is volatility here. Uh, there's like almost no volatility in this first September 3, right? So in this week, most likely we're going to get call side plays or market's not going to be dumping it, right? And then the market's going to be closed here, Labor Day, like 7. So I'm able to tell all of this information. And this is very beneficial for me, right? Why? Well, now I'm able to kind of quickly glance at the data and understand, okay, I should be trading here. Maybe I'll hold up, hold up a little bit here, and so on and so forth. And that brings me to my next point. So we can come back to the chart here, right? Like we were actually looking at the sector rotation, right? What I wanted to do right now for I want to keep slides very short because I'm speaking in both places today. So I just want to keep it short. And today was a test, right? I want to see how does the YouTube live stream does. The YouTube live stream actually really bad. They don't really have anything to help your camera, and it just feels right. Over here, on the other hand, it's much better. So anyway, that's besides the point, right? The point here is that we are looking at XLV, right? XLV is going to be the main play here for me, right? One of the main call side plays. And what I want to really look at is not the large cap stocks, the mid caps, right? Smaller sector, and even small caps. We're going to get this option soon where you're going to be able to get the small caps, right? So let's look at the mid caps. So for the mid caps, we want to go bullish, right? And so obviously, these stocks, let me kind of zoom in so you guys can see it. POX, REGN, by the way, these always squeeze. And something like VRTX, right? Why VRTX here? Can you guys tell me? This is going to be very important, right? Why do you think VRTX is going to be the one that's going to rally? Let's see if you guys get this. All right, so I'm just going to give you the answer, right? Since no one's making a guess. Because it's in the first standard deviation, right? So it has more room to grow, and it's a leading sector. It's a leading ticker. Exactly, Vladimir. You got it, bro. That's 100% the reason. And yeah, I'm glad you're paying attention. So this is basically what it is, right? Now we know this is in the first standard deviation. This has way more room. And guess what? This is a mid cap. So what does that mean? This has lower float. We actually want to target small float and mid cap, but we want to see explosions there, right? And that's kind of the mentality I want to go for, right? And this is how I sort of like screen out my stocks that I think has a good opportunity. And obviously, this process itself is very time consuming too, right? But it's good, right? It's good because it gets you a good idea on like where things are. And from this alone, right, I can kind of look into the chart and we can see, well, how did that fare? How will VRTX do? Let's see, right? So, well, this is very, very sad because even though it's a mid cap, we're sitting at $550 per share. So these contracts are going to be very, very expensive, right? It's going to be very, very expensive. So it's continue rally. And the better part of this is that you want, as long as you find like it's either one red day, out one even one red day. How do you base it off a breakout? So Steph, right? So Steph, bro, I think the thing is that like how do we base off that breakout? It's more so we're looking at where this ticker is in relation to the market, right? In relation to its peers, and it's in relation to its sector. And we know this one has moved towards the upside because again, like we saw the RTX earlier, that it's in the first standard deviation, right? Well, it's in the second standard deviation block, but it's still good, right? So what that means essentially, this is a leader of the market. It's leading the market in the mid cap sector, and then it must have a lot towards the upside. Now, to be fair with you, I would like it to be like at the one standard deviation, but it's actually at the two. I completely, and I'm just reading it as it is, right? So yeah. That being said, you know, pretty much, right? Well, technically, well, this is correct. This is the first time now. I'm going crazy, guys. This is the first standard deviation. Right? That's basically the zero or like no zone, right? But anyway, that's besides the point, right? So we're here at the first standard deviation, and our goal is that once it goes up to the third standard, it's falling behind its peers, so it has more room to the upside. There's some deviate to another field. Yes, so that's another thing that can happen, right? Where essentially, even though something is in leading, right, it can fall out of it. But typically, if you look at any of the patterns, right, for example, like let's look at this pattern, right? So you can see this went from here, its rotation, and it was super aggressive. So this move alone, right, for this particular ticker is what it's like a big flag. So what you typically want to see in terms of rotation, right? You actually want to see a rotation, right? This is why it's called um, sector rotation, right? You actually want to see things rotate. So when it doesn't rotate, when a ticker doesn't rotate, and it's cutting through, right? You can see it's moved very aggressively, and whenever something moves up this aggressively, typically usually breaks back down. And you can see in terms of that concept, it's actually falling through. We can take a look at something else. Like for example, this is a very, very nice stock. Why? Well, it followed the pattern. It went from, for example, lagging, then it went to first standard deviation, and it kind of came here, and then eventually just broke out and went to recovering and it stayed in for some time and finally came here. And it's doing the proper rotation here, right? So something like this, it's following its rotation. Even this, for example, like on its market are on the area, so watch list market are on the area. I don't know what you mean by that, bro. You gotta clarify what you mean by the watch list. This is not part of those watch lists, right? This is just we're looking at the sector. The reason why we're looking at the healthcare sector right now is because of mRNA, right? mRNA had a very explosive thing, right? As you guys probably already know, probably already seen that. And let's just quickly talk about that. mRNA went from $60, and I saw this on our Discord right into the morning. I said, Vados, man, these are bots, bro. Like, I don't know why we have a lot of bots in this place, but I hear this guy here. So much, right? You see this major move here from $60 all the way to $110 open. And I kid you not, all of the options on our 20 they
Basically, everything went in the money today. And what that means is if you had options that cost $1, they were worth $8,000 by the end of the day, right? Like on the open, sorry. So if you put about like I don't know $900 in display, you would have about like 8 million right now, or 8 million, right? But yeah, that's a ridiculous number. Obviously, you'd have to kind of have like knowledge. Even like my system couldn't pick this up, right? There's no way I could have picked it up. Funny enough, we did talk about it on our live because we did talk about exactly this because we were talking about XLV. We were looking over uh, what is it? We were looking over the gyre, right? And we were talking about the sectors. And I remember we were saying essentially what happens around this time of the month, right? Or this time of the year. So what ends up happening is does really well. Like Pfizer, for example, like these are amazing plays. Pfizer, Johnson and Johnson, J&J, right? These stickers are going to do really well, right? So these are your typical plays, right? And even mRNA, like mRNA squeezed last time too. So it does happen, right? And so you might never know. Pfizer might be next, right? PFE might be next. So everything is in this kind of XLV bucket, and this is what we want to follow in the market. But as for short, during this time, you can see XLK already decided, hey man, I'm piecing out. So you see XLK is already being rotated out. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that XLK is going to recover, I would say. It can come back. The assumption is that it's going to drop even further back to the weakening area. And the reason for that is because it's September. This is something that happens a lot. And another interesting thing is when you're looking at XLK, you look at XLK in relationship to SPY. You want to look at XLK to the tech sector, right? In relation to the QQQ. And then you have a different picture entirely. All right. And see, that's why I want to show you guys, right? This when you look at the cues, when you look at the Nasdaq, you get basically, SPY. I'm sorry, these sectors in relationship to that. That's when you have a completely different picture. And now it's completely different. You can see XLK is actually weakening, and it's at the one standard deviation, meaning this sector is going to dump. So it prints a much more clearer picture you know, in relative to something like, when you're looking at it from SPY. That's why we give the benchmarks. So we give you three benchmarks: SPY, QQQ, and IWM. And it's for that reason. Right? Obviously, I'm always looking at the SPY, but I let you guys know, like, there are different benchmarks. And so this gives you a much more clear picture of exactly where XLP really is at, right? So, yeah, that being said, most likely in this month, well, XLV is going to exaggerate higher, right? You're going to most likely see XLK go back to the third standard deviation. And that's basically our play here. Like an AMD, right? AMD, you have a Palantir, you have all of these other, things, right? This is basically what we're doing. We're just making those plays where we find weakness and where we find strength, right? So that being said, let's quickly delve into it. Right? So we're looking at a few tickers here, right, on the mid cap. So let's look at the mid caps here. I really like GRTX, but again, it's too expensive. So I'm not going to be buying this for this. Again, this is a little bit too much. Let's look at BOX. Well, BOX is very interesting, right? Let's look at BOX. It's $187 slot, right? And its fee charges about $4 a day. Very good, right? Why is this good? Well, that means that this moves about $5 a day. It's not so bad, So you do have some you have some volatility there. Um, like anything that moves like close to $5 is a good stop, I would say, right? Even $3 to $4 is a really good stop. Um, so yeah, this is something that I'm going to be watching. BDX. Let's look at REGM. Now this is I believe this is like a very expensive. Yeah, it's $840. I can see here, $840. Not good. Even the numbers there, just you have to have a lot of capital to trade this, and oftentimes you're not going to be able to buy a lot out of it. Let's ask the question: Tesla, SPY. So for real, we're gonna definitely look at Tesla at SPY, brother. Well, I should talk about it earlier, so I think just kidding right now. So I'm just gonna quickly have SPY, right? I'm going to talk about SPY. You will understand pretty much what to do here. So SPY showed a lot of bullish signs today, right? Even when closed a black candle here, it's most likely bullish, guys, right? So at least for tomorrow. And the reason why I'm saying you have to see some sort of bullish action here is most likely, let's go to this area right now. It's most likely it's right? I talked about it in my lives before, but I said this market is not going to just straight up jump. It's not going to do that. And we're already seeing the signs from today. So tomorrow you're going to see some pretty bullish action here. Maybe like big retest up. Maybe a little bit of a like retest here. Maybe a little bit of like a some people call it like that. That was a really bad drawing there. Pre-drawing. Something like a liquidity, right? And what do I mean by that? It's like you have this kind of move higher, and you kind of have this move that breaks that high, and maybe sort of like a move, or with the like lower low like that, right? Or sorry, lower high like that. And this is a really interesting possibility, and it will be like around September, at the end of the September, where you have this like very big down. So this is a very strong possibility. But as of now, most likely we're going to continue rallying higher, at least tomorrow, right? I can't predict what's going to happen the day after, but tomorrow for sure we're going to be bullish. So, that being said, there is this area right here that I'm very looking for, looking towards. I don't want this thing to break because when it breaks, it confuses me too. It's going to confuse me because my algorithm really banks on the fact that it doesn't break this high because this is where my signal is to market. So as you guys saw, we had a pretty good short for so far, and now prices go up there. That's fine. But when it breaks there, it kind of trips up my own algorithm, right? So I actually need some sort of like different set of confirmation for me to like very sure that the market is going to dump after that point. Because there is a possible scenario, all right? I'm going to say this that the market just squeezes to 800 and 850, right? And and I don't want to like jinx it, but there is a very good reason behind why. And the reason why is because I feel like this time, and again, this is a sort of an intuition type of thing, but a lot of people are short in the market. So I looked at a lot of institutions and I see there's a lot of shorts, or, long term shorts in September. Now September historically is a very bearish month, right? Historically is a very bearish month. And I'm gonna show you some data here, right? And I showed this in all my lives, but I just so you guys can see anybody that's new here, like because I share other people, I might as well share with you guys. Let me find it first. Like no, set the view. That's it. Okay. So, well, right? So this is the third year of SPY, right? So it's the third years of data. You see, look at September here. September in particular, on the 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th, is one of the biggest red days you could possibly see in the entire history. So that's my camera got stuff. Let me pull this out. All right. So you can see this entire end of September is very, 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 very red. All right. In regards to my goal, thank you, Gigi. Thank you for joining, brother. Always happy to see you here. And yeah, man. So you guys can see this pretty much, and this kind of paints a lot of picture, right? And August, we can kind of see relatively August, like what happens at the end of August. And you can see, like realistically, the short starts are on the end of August. Right? It's where we're most likely going to see some good pop. But during this phase, like really these phase, 22, 23, 24, 25, the market is typically bullish around this area, right? So obviously, it did, past price action does entail future movement, right? Like just because this there doesn't mean that. And sometimes this actually is the opposite. Like for example, days where they're like very big, days, that tends to be a very big red day. The reason why is because the market is, um, what's the word for it? Coming back to the mean. Right? This does happen. Just FYI. So yeah, just be careful of that for sure. But yeah, I mean, other than that, like with all of those evidence, now let's look at I gotta stop this drawing tool here. That's I, so by the way, for anybody that's on our platform, for anybody that's new here, this is our platform at Brilliant.net. You can join our platform completely free. Join out a full plan for 2 months for completely free. All right. So yeah, definitely sign up. No risk to you guys, and give us the feedback. We also have a Discord. Join the Discord, and let us know what we can improve on. Right. So yeah, we also built this platform for over a year now. You know, with developers offshore. I myself worked on maybe 40% of these things, right? So definitely enjoy the platform. But yeah, that being said, guys, I just want to kind of talk about this slide out of here, right? So, oh yeah, you can. So this is the continuous mode. If I'm drawing, I can just do this, right? And if it is good flocking in. But for example, I want to get rid of this. I can just press the continuation button out, and then it's no longer continuation. For anybody that's like kind of struggling with that, that's how you get out of that. Let's look at the gets data, right? This is what I'm focused, right? So right now we're in this negative gamma regime. Now, what happens in a negative gamma? And by the way, this is why we have been moving so aggressively down, by the way, because of this negative regime. This negative gamma regime didn't start like today. It actually started from all the way from here, right? To this day, when it closed here, around this time, you're hit negative gamma regime. So this is a good sign for you to know the market will exaggerate and letting you hold the gap down. Right? Very big drop. I mean, for SPY, this is not really big. This market is very bad. It's very terrible. And there are days where this thing just doesn't even hold anything. You know, like for example, like this. What is this, bro? This price action right here. Avoid, especially for anybody that's buying calls, you're going to be hit with that data decay very hard, especially 30 teams. I got burned in one of these days where I had like 30 team calls, and it just pretty much didn't do anything, right? I think it was uh, yeah, it was around here pretty much. I think I it was like the last 30 minutes I was trying to trade. And the lower time frame pretty much did nothing. Typically, you see some sort of little bit of an aggressive move, like 2 points, 100 points, but that day was like 20 cents. Oh, 1 second, let me see. Is it your bot trading? And no, this is not a bot, right? This is a research tool, right? It's a tool for you to use, and just like TradingView to make your market analysis, and you can trade in another platform like let's say Webull, so on and so forth, right? And this is our platform, OBELION Terminal. You can join our platform completely free at OBELION.net. Sign up right now, you get the pro plan for 2 months, right? So that being said, uh, this is how we knew this negative regime. Essentially, prices dropped very aggressively. Now the price is going up. Tomorrow, I promise you, this is going to flip into positive gamma regime. Because if you look at where this Y flip is, right? So the Y flip right now is at 770, right? 770, 63. We are literally right there. We are like right here at we closed 769 today. It's $1 away. If you move up tomorrow in the morning, it's going to flip into positive gamma regime. It's likely you're going to also have a very explosive move with it, right? It comes with it. And so you might even open it high like that and continue a little bit higher. And then guess what's going to happen? Price is going to come back down. Because positive gamma regime, prices tend to come back down to the middle. So even though it's negative gamma regime, you're really close to the life left. Meaning what you wanted to see here, what some price action like is, let's show you what negative gamma regime price action should look like, right? You see, you have a move down, you have a move, right? Then you want to see this, and you want to see another move down like this, very aggressive. But what ended up happening was kind of the opposite, right? You had this kind of move up, you had to continue going higher, and even though technically it did go lower, it's not what you want to see. Much more aggressive moves that are going, moving away from this level, right? You see this level? This is a put level. I'm sorry, let me zoom in. Sorry, my bad. This is a call level, right? 1.7 billion. This is where there's a lot of options in here. If within a negative gamma regime, within this context, right? there's like 48,000, uh, you know, for 48,000 calls here. Think for a moment. Price should not be doing this. It should be like running away from that, right? So instead, what you have is like sort of something like acceptance. So this reflect, yeah, I'm already thinking, well, nah, this is, you know, just from the gamma levels, I can tell, well, you know, it's like tomorrow's going to be a bullish day. But more importantly, it's my algorithm that I'm looking at, right? My algorithm is telling me, well, nah, you know, this is the time to go long in the market. And there are a few reasons for that, right? One thing that I like to look at, and I'm just going to kind of show you guys on the 15 minute here. First, you know, we are in this pocket here, right? This is a low volume node pocket. Now, if we were to, if there's a lot going on, let me just remove these here. So let me remove all the ATR cams for now. A little more clear, right? Um, and the 15 minute gets a little bit more confusing, but if you pay attention to it, you know, you just have the super trends here, right? This is very important, right? Whenever there's a super trend break, I tell this to like, you know, in all my videos here, whenever there's a super trend break, we break both of these super trends at the same time. So for example, this one, technically this is valid, you know, but just staying down, right? But again, price broke second layer as well. And guess what? Price also will come back retesting below it. And so this is a very bullish position as long as it doesn't break this super trend. But you're very close to it, like 716. So if you think about it, this is a very easy trade to take. Like this is a very easy trade to go long on, right? And super trends will act as our exit, right? So this is how I'm trading it, and pretty much you can see like we have this, uh, I guess, Bollinger Band here, and then high volume node at 773. Most likely, what you're going to see is a very aggressive move long, or it's right here past this high volume node, because the thing with high volume nodes, right? You always want to see high volume nodes with a strong volume break, with like a large candle break. That's what tells you that there's going to be on the upside. All right. So, but if you, you know, instead you just like really don't see any movement or price like kind of staggering here, then you know that's kind of like a warning flag. Then sometimes what ends up happening is prices do break with the high volume, but you know it comes all the way to this little volume node and then goes the opposite way. So this is also another possibility. But I don't want to talk about it because that's a lot more. It's a lot more nuanced, right? It just confuses a lot of people, right? Like, just, I guess the best way to say it is just follow the super trend, right? Super trend is bullish, you know, it looks bullish, great. We're just going to continue to trade, taking the trades. Our trades are we like to see, you know, these Bollinger Bands break. Like, for example, this is very obvious, right? So you had two obvious ones. Like, say you traded this, right? You had this big move higher, exit your position, right? You also broke the super trend, right? And then you wait for prices to come back below the super trend, which it does. So you enter again, and then boom, you could possibly exit here or exit here, right? But I would maybe even exit half here, and I would exit something here, right? But it like a lot of it has to like other context. It's not just this indicator. There's other things here on this chart that tells you when to exit. But yeah, like you know, you can see it here. Another thing we use like flop, two standard deviation flop bands, right? So they're even better than Bollinger bands. So if those ones get hit here, then you exit there, right? And so you exit, and you know, the short-term market, I think this was the right move to the market here because you broke this, and so you expect the price to at least go below this. So this is a very easy short. This at least this move right here. Sure, not this entire move, but this one is definitely easy, right, for you to take advantage of. But yeah, this one, you know, I was looking at AMD and these other ones that were like completely dumping. I was shorting those. So yeah, um, that being said, you know, right now you see this very bullish end of the day. Um, Overnight is doing really good. I have calls open. Let's see how it works. If we, you know, really do exaggerate, we should be breaking this right here at 773. We should open with a strong volume break. Even if we open below, like at 772, I want to see a big green candle here breaking this. And then I want to exit at whatever level here. and I want to wait for like kind of like a retest, whatever, and like maybe at 3:30 I'm gonna go back in. We will see, right? We will see. But yeah, that's pretty much the plan, guys. And for anybody that wants to see the opposite, because we don't just look at SPY here, right? We want to also look at VIX. And mind you, guys, I see some new people joining in. So, anybody that's new here, this is our platform, the OBELION Terminal. This is a platform for traders, made by traders like ourselves. Definitely join the platform for completely free, right? And you'll get 2 months of pro plan, completely on us, right? Which is like $20 per month. So technically, you guys are getting $40 a dollar just for joining. And all we want from you really is just the feedback, right? So we have a Discord. Go there. The Discord, I believe, is in the. I just go in there. We also have the Discord from the terminal. Like if you come to the terminal, uh, oh, I guess it's not in my setting, but there is a module here, right? That actually will show up on your side, guys. But it's going to show you the Discord link here. So definitely, you can just go to there and Discord link. But anyway, VIX. Let's talk about VIX, right? So, camera not focused. So VIX here in particular, like you see, we kind of broke this down, and we had this crisis kind of go back in here, all right, into that VIX. Now, most likely, now this is very interesting, right? Even though the expect prices to continue going higher, what I'm thinking from the VIX alone, right? There's not enough evidence that the market is going to go higher, even though this is technically the area like 14 and that's rally higher. Now, maybe this is for a short time, but tomorrow, most likely, as long as we don't get close to this like 13 area, like if tomorrow is still 14.33, price is coming down, whatever, that's fine. Like we want to see maybe a W here sort of build up as well. Or if worst case scenario, if it goes all the way here to 12, well, this is a very all-time low type of situation. Right? If VIX doesn't ever go to these levels. And I know it's like very hard to see. Like kind of, oh, we're supposed to have something called Zen mode. I don't think we've developed that code yet. So we're supposed to have something called Zen mode. Zen mode, what it does, it completely removes all indicators temporarily. So we're using Zen mode. You can better see the candlesticks. But I don't think they push the code. But pretty much, you know, you can pretty much see like this is, um, if anything, you know, the most move you have is all the way up to 11. It's breaks, guys. I promise you, the market is going to squeeze. Like, I mean, so sorry, VIX is going to go higher. So if this breaks any day, it breaks. You better believe it. This market spot is going to freaking dump. All right, this breaks here, it's pretty much over. Like I'm telling you, this if this happens at like somewhere in near September, like that's a guaranteed time. I would just shorts for like the entire month. That's it. I wouldn't even look towards call side. I don't care what anybody tells me because at that point, VIX is going to go spiking. All right, VIX is going to go spiking. When VIX is going spiking, you're going to see SPY moving 2.5% a day downwards. Right, then it's probably going to be some news like, oh, we're having worry and right war or like maybe a new virus came in. I don't know, but that's how you know another thing. A lot of these things people think like, oh, um, they are not, they're spontaneous, but they're not. A lot of things are already because of the market, because there's real money already, and whenever there's money involved, there's relation, and it's much bigger than we are, right? It happens for a lot of things, right? Whether it's, um, you know, 9/11, whether it's, again, I don't want to be a conspiracy guy, but yeah, like a lot of the time, things are already known beforehand, right? There's war, you better believe it. Police already know about it. Why? Because they already talk to each other, right? They already have investments, so they already have positions. So it's your footprint. That's another thing, right? You're able to see the footprint on the chart. So technically, before oil goes up in the world, you're going to see that oil go up in the charts, right? So the oil will move first in the chart. Same with gold or anything else. Gold value go up in real time, right? So yeah, All right, guys. Pretty much that's it for me today. I think we talked for a long time. It's like 4 a.m. So I definitely got to get my sleep. Um, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the live for joining again. And for anybody that's new here, this is our platform, the Billion Terminal. If you join our platform, sign up right now. Get pro plan for 2 months, completely free on us. So definitely appreciate it for insights out of my go. Thank you, brother. Thanks for joining again. Um, there's a lot of things to talk about, right? We talked about the sectors that we're interested in, XLV, software sector. We talked about tech sector that we're interested in shorting, right? There are a few tickers that we're looking at. And by the way, all of this information is in the gyre, so definitely guys go into the gyre, see for yourself, right? That's what I was looking at. Because again, if you wanna, we're also gonna have small cap here. So you're gonna have large cap, mid cap, and small cap. So you want to see these low float stocks. So if you really want to see small cap and mid cap, you want to see these low float stocks, and then those are the ones that have a very high chance of squeezing, right? So if you want to play those like very lot of IPAs, that's basically where you're gonna be able to like find those stickers, right? And it narrows it down for you. You know, it's not like a thousand sticker. You just know exactly okay, these ones have a really high chance, right? Okay, so that being said, I'm gonna be out. All right, peace, guys. Until next time, definitely check out the Discord. All right, guys, take care.